live from Trinidad and Tobago.
Welcome to Connections 50 Plus Wednesdays live show.
I am Terry Ann Joseph Brathwaite.
And I am Jennifer Gibbons Joseph. Hi, good evening everyone, and welcome to Connections 50 Plus Wednesdays Alive. I am Jennifer Gibbons Joseph, and with me is my co-creator, Terry Ann.
Hi, and this is the Wednesday before Independence, so happy Independence, Trinbago.
Yes, happy Independence, and we have with us here a guest, and our guest is Lynette Tyson Noel. Lynette is a very good friend of ours. She's a follower. She is also a lecturer and an author. You would see behind her the bus stories, so you're going to hear more about it. So, Terry Ann, let's chat. You said happy Independence. We are chatting about our journeys from independence to now, to present time. So, what should I say? I recall independence, which was the 31st of August, 1962. I lived as a child in Belmont at that time. So Belmont was the hub of the independence celebrations, if I may say so, because we were close to the Queen's Park Savannah. So they had a lot of, activities, the preparations for this great independence. A lot of buzz was going on. I recall as a child with my siblings, which was 7 of us in all, and we all, with our parents, go down to the savannah to see all the activities and the practice for the parade and all that. I remember that really clearly. It was very exciting for me. And when I heard the talk about what independence is all about, I recall being that, you're no longer being ruled by England and by those the white masters and all these sort of chat. So it was about, we can't wait to be free. What, as children, whatever that meant, it meant for us that somewhere along the line we're going to be just moving around without being controlled, that sort of thing. So yes, that was the start, the beginning of the celebration of independence for me. And then, of course, we will get into the parade. But Terry Ann, were you born yet?
Well, yes, I was born, but not conscious. I would have been born in December 61.
Okay. But, so you were there.
Independence for me is, and born in San Fernando at that. Yes. But at school, because we were at the San Fernando Girls Government School, I remember every single independence. I have a memory of buntings and decorations and coat of arms and drawing flags and making flags and carrying it home and making flag bouquets, and also going to see we lived just off of one of the main artery streets. It's like if you lived on Rosalino Street off of Arquita Avenue.
Yes.
So the parade route may have been on Sapiro Street. So I have very, very exciting memories of school, although it wouldn't have been independence. It would have been before the August holidays or right after you come back.
Yes.
Flags and drawing coat of arms and seeing the parades. And for me, independence, I think, came into my consciousness as when I entered secondary school. So for my entire primary school life, you throw flags on, you make coat of arms, and you had the parade. I also have a clear memory, and I don't know if this is a memory from being present or a memory from pictures and film of, I think it was Princess Margaret's visits in San Fernando. and the hoopla and uproar that caused. And I think that was around an independence thing.
Okay.
It was a few years after, I think. Because the Queen came, somebody came. But my consciousness of independence really was of understanding that I am a part of a nation and
Yes.
a resource of a nation. I have no hang-ups or connections with the colonial past and what happened then. That was something that happened. But my consciousness of Trinidad and Tobago as an independent country is really squarely set in my teenage development, my consciousness of being a Trinidadian, Trinbagonian, being a participant in our culture and being a participant in things that define us. So I used to dance with Les Enfants Dance Company at the late Joyce
Yes.
and and I was a participant in choral speaking in school and stuff like that. So the performing arts and visual arts are close to me, and we always participated in an independence gala as an expression of Trinidadianness and Tobagonianness. So my independence for me is always exciting to this day. The parade is a TV event for me. Once or twice I would have gone to see the parade along the streets, but I much prefer to sit on television, and I actually get excited when I see the development over the years of our armed forces and all how capable we are of protecting this thing called nationhood. So for me, independence is a very proud thing. When I say I am Trinbagonian, that is not a light statement at all. It is something I fiercely defend and I absolutely appreciate. And I love to get up and look and see what the ladies wearing, the ministers and the ladies, the minister or the president, what they're wearing. I mean, since we have our first lady president, I mean, I sit down and I am there. I'm very proud. So independence it's on two levels for me. It's really a time to express me as a Trinidadian and our pride in our national capacity to handle our own stories. So
great. So Lynette, we would have also learned a lot of the nation building songs. Remember those days in school? So we had the anthem, we had all the different songs. But tell us, for you, how the independence from then to, well, let's go back from the beginning, 1962.
The thing about it is, when I think of independence, way back, I remember some names coming from the country, there's some names that were instilled in our mind. One of them definitely was the late Dr. Eric Williams.
Yes.
The other one was Dr. Capildale, and these two people who were so instrumental in getting us to where we are today to start us off. I can't help but think about them. And when I think of Trinidad and Tobago now, these two people are really etched in my mind. And I said, they have done something good and so on. And they impacted us. And the thing about it is our parents, and our teachers never made us forget those names, those important people. Of course, I should mention when I heard the Prime Minister talk about having civics back in, the whole idea of citizenship and so on, I said, we didn't have an issue with that because in those days, I mean, you knew. And it was something that, how could you not know that? And we knew, you know, the national anthem, our nation's dawning, you know, some of those national songs that we no longer, we don't sing them because we don't hear them often, you know, and so there was that. As I grew older, of course, it was I'm in town now, near to town, so there was the parade, you know, and as Terry-Ann said, you know, see the people who were the top ranking people in our country, and that was the closest you were getting to them, you know, just see them and to hear what they would say. And there was that aura of, oh, this is good. This is good. This is so very good. And it made you want to strive.
Yes.
To be in that kind of light. I don't know necessarily wanted to be a politician or anything like that, but these people represented something you could look up to. So there was that. And out of all of that came this feeling of Trinbago is my land. It's mine. It's mine. You know, and this is where I have to call home. And so much so that for many years of my life, I didn't go away. Everything was grounded here, you know. I mean, I know I have traveled so much more and everything else, but there was that sense of, I need to be here. I'm comfortable here. I'm happy here. And we have our issues. But like, I could deal with these issues here, and all of those things. And I felt proud being a Trinity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I haven't lost too much of that in the midst of everything else, you know. I haven't lost that. I still feel something when I see the red, white, and black.
Yes.
You know, and you see the flag and it's all those little emblems. And so when I'm going away, I always carry something, you know, and give some of the participants, some people I've meeting. So in our conferences and so something, I would have a Lara bat, you know, to say, yeah, I mean, that, you know, and I think also because I have this kind of feeling, there's that kind of pride that exudes in what I do and so on. So I want to share that kind of thing with people I interact with, especially my students, because of, you know, and in that kind of way says, wherever you are, wherever you've come from, whatever your circumstances, you can rise.
Yes.
You can rise. And I remember Stalin saying, better days, I wouldn't try to sing it. I think you know, your audience would be a little scandalized, but say, better days are coming, you know, and there is that hope.
Yeah.
Tambu said the journey now starts, you know, years ago, and that the journey now starts. And for some, the journey is now starting. For us, I mean, we've been there a while. We've made some journeys, and you know, going in all different directions and so on. But Trinbago, yes, independence. Trinbago, me, red, white, and black. This is us. Proud to be.
Definitely. And Lynette, yes, every year from then to now,
Yes.
I would celebrate Independence Day. I will go out.
Yes.
I'm not one to watch it on television because I'm used to being in Port of Spain.
Right.
For all the years being in Belmont and then moved to St. James. So I was always in the heart of the, you know, celebration.
Yes.
So every year I would go and like you all, love to see the different outfits. I look forward to know what am I wearing for independence. And as years passed, we had every year one of these steel bands celebrated, had a brunch for independence, and steel band on the road with just in front their panyard. So as an adult now, I took part in that. I did not miss the independence brunch, from Starlift. And then when we leave Starlift, we go to the pan around the neck and really, you see everyone just gathered with love and proud of being, Trinbagonians and proud of the steel band was one of the instruments that we say, yes, somehow independence, we link the independence with steel band. And Lynette, I'm saying just the top of your steel band next to you. Yes.
Nice one. Yes, reminds me, and as we're talking about that, I would talk about the best steel orchestra in the world, right? I would talk about the Espers, I would talk about that. Good music. But I'm just putting your leg, of course, yes, I like the Espers, that's no thing. But the whole idea of, there's a particular kind of, as a matter of fact, I like drums. So this, that's the two, like the heat is something about drums that would bring out that energy, and well, I don't know how you could hear drums and feel depressed. I don't know, so really a nice kind of feeling. So we have that too,
Yes.
And you have after the parade, you have, go down the road and you have our military people, really after you've seen them march and everything, and they march off and they're going down, and that's some people come for that.
Yes, that and the fireworks in the night.
Yes. Unfortunately, the dogs get a little bothered, that, with the fireworks. That's the kind of thing. But we enjoy seeing and all those different shapes, formations, and so very nice light.
Yes. So let's talk about your journey, Lynette. I know you wrote one of your books, The Bus Stories.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about, well, before you start, tell us about how you started with the bus stories.
Now, I travel by bus.
Mm-hmm.
I travel by bus and have done that, enjoyed doing it. And what would happen is that as I would sit on the bus, there, I play our business, and conversations will be taking place, things are happening, and, always something kind of amusing. So I would go to my place of work, well, I said, listen, if you know what happened to me, I'd always give them my experience on the bus. And one of them said, but you're always telling us about them, about these stories, you should write about them. And of course, we had some discussion about what it would be, and we came up with the bus story. It's a good idea. So I started documenting, and it is what I have documented. It is also what I have reflected on, and I have interpreted it in a particular way, what had happened, and always really looking for what is the message in all of this? What is it? Is it just about people on the bus, just relaxing, sleeping, as I would do, or is there more to it than that? And in my representation of all of those things, I've had documentation, interpretation, and really reflection. mean, how could somebody do that? I don't know, you know. Yes, so out of my documentation, my reflections, my interpretations came the bus stories. And of course, I needed to have it, having written it and I needed to have it published. So I got Pendium House to do the publishing. There was the book launch and all of that. And even before the book launch, even before the official book launch, we had some mini launches by some of my friends. They would invite their friends home by them, and I would do some readings, the bus story and some other stories and poems that I would have written, you know. So lots of journeys taking place, even from the time I started to write the bus stories to having it being published and all the marketing things that you would have to do to make sure it's visible, it's known to people, and that people buy it. You know, I have even had at my institution in the library there, fortunate enough to have had the library do a whole celebration of me and the book, and it was really, really wonderful, really wonderful. Of course, I had the book launch, the official launch took place at the at NALIS, in the audiovisual. I mean, if we're talking books, we're talking books. We need to have the book placed in. Yes, that's where it should be, in the library. Yes, our national library. Yes.
Well, I must congratulate you, and I know Terry and I have connections 50 plus. Did have you as our guest at one of our well, around the fireside, actually, given this story. And I bought the book and had my mother read it. And my mom, as you said, she did endorse it. And going through your book, reading it, she was just smiling all along, recalling those stories and recalling the times. So it's really, you took her back, you know, to the early days and traveling on the bus. So, Terry-Ann, what do you have to say at this stage with having Lynette read something for us?
I'm struck because, you know, we talked about independence and independence as identifying us as quintessentially Trinbagonian or Trinidadian, everything like that. And, you know, when we think about, all right, where do you get a chance to meet Trinidadians, the average Trinidadians, the grassroots people, and to really understand how they live, what they live, and what makes them independent, you know? Yeah. So I am intrigued by the collection of stories that are the bus stories. And Lynette, I am excited to see what you would have selected for us from your many overhearings and participation in conversations and reflections that would give us a sense of how the average person, that true blood Trinidadian, is how you would have made a connection to independence. So I really look forward to hearing what you would have selected to read for us today.
Thank you so much for that. And I have selected Uncertain Travels. We're talking about our journeys. So I thought that, well, of course, the bus stories would be apt. I thought that Uncertain Travels might have some relevance, some significance, because when you're talking about independence, okay, you know, you tell yourself, okay, I'm free of the colonial system and everything else. You tell yourself that, and you're glad about that. But then, are you sure how you will be able to handle it? So there's a bit of uncertainty in that. So I'm going to make the connection between independence, that uncertainty that independence brings. It brings a certain assurance but there's uncertainty with it. And I'm just going to tie that in with uncertain travels. When you're traveling, there's a bit of uncertainty about it. And after I've read it, you probably would pick up the different types of uncertainty that people can experience. All right, so I hope so. So let's go. And when I was thinking about this, what came to mind was the journey now start. Journey now start. And I would not sing anymore. Tambu would be ashamed of me.
I was just about to join you on that.
Well, the journey now start. And for independence, that's what we said. The journey now start. The journey to freedom just started. That's what we said. So uncertain travels. Tuesday. Oh, it is Tuesday too as well today. 3 more days to go. The accounting was not my preferred activity, but I had finished my duties at 2 schools where I listened to lessons and conferred with prospective teachers. Wednesday looked 8 hours away. Getting horizontal in my own space with the bedroom fan oscillating on 3 beckoned this weary traveler. I got to the San Fernando terminal and to my delight, the 4:30 p.m. coach was revving up to leave. The journey now gonna start. I rushed to the counter, got my ticket and boarded. I opted for a comfortable seat next to a young man who was plugged into his BB in those days, his BlackBerry, you know? Well, of course, we're talking other kinds of phones now, but BlackBerry was it. And tapping to the beat. Oh, nobody to disturb my trip. I was so glad about that. I could relax and let sleep have its way as usual. I decided to take out my Kindle and read one of the many digital texts that I had bought recently. We left the Southern Borough. The traffic crawled for about 15 minutes as the driver moved from intersection to intersection, from one bus stop to the next. When given the green light to increase speed as the traffic thinned out, he proceeded with required caution. A quarter mile onwards, we heard a loud hum. I looked around to identify the source of the sound and saw other passengers doing the same. "Where's that boy?" said the man opposite me. Another one answered, "Don't tell me this bus going to shut down." This had to be madness. The responses were fast and indignant from all those whom slumber had rejected. My fellow passenger continued listening to his own beat, but the tapping stopped. He looked at me and shrugged his shoulders. The bus company would be happy to know that not every passenger is fazed by these events of stalling. I told him, "It seems like the bus shut down." "What you say?" He pulled one of the earplugs off as I explained what I thought had happened. "They sent another one just now, man. Nice cool thing." He replaced the earplug and continued his tapping. I wavered between disbelief and resentment. Things had gone well for the day, and my early trip home was being sabotaged by a burst radiator. The female conductor warned everybody to stay on board and relax until a replacement came. with the temperature outside still blazing at 90+ degrees, and the setting sun giving off its residual heat before resting until sunrise. Passengers had no choice but to remain where they were. My co-passengers stopped tapping. There's real nonsense, yes? It's getting hot in here. He slid the window forward. I read the sign imprinted in red. It is an offense to tamper with these windows. I surmised that reading was also a gift that many people did not have. The sound of sliding windows echoed throughout the bus. It didn't matter whether anyone was blessed with that gift. Really didn't matter. You know what? I too welcomed the air that came in. This was going to be an indefinite delay fraught with discomfort. The driver stepped outside, making repeated calls to the maintenance department. The female conductor checked in to update us and remind us to stay where we were. She seemed oblivious to the opened windows. Other buses passed, blew their horns, but continued on. The long wait was now inevitable. In the distance, I identified my establishment. 2 cars, red and gold, were visible in the twilight. Their owners would not believe that I was stranded a few yards away. This gave new meaning to the expression, so near, but yet so far. One by one, male passengers alighted and found private spots to relieve themselves. Female passengers did not have such a luxury, and I was thankful that none of them dared to reverse that assumption. We tried not to witness how the grasses were being fed the unexpected nutrition. These men have no respect for people, said an old lady in front of me. It was a toss-up between responding to nature's call and respect for gentle eyes. I prayed silently for the bus to come soon. The female conductor stepped into the aisle. I know you're tired, but I want you to listen carefully. The sounds of disgust ricocheted in the confined space. A bus is almost here, and I want you to come out your seat by seat, to get on it. Woman, you have to be joking. I wished her well with that request. Excuse me, please. Excuse me, please. Let me get out of here fast. My co-passenger, with BB in hand, nudged me to get out ahead of the rest. At almost 6 p.m., I did not intend to be trampled upon or verbally abused. He pushed past the conductor and was the 3rd person out of the bus. In 2 minutes, the bus was empty except for Granny and me. I didn't know what else inhabited the wet grass and was too tired to find out. Soon after, the new bus came and everybody was on board. I hope this one could reach town. Granny's wish was echoed in my thoughts. I knew she did not expect a response. Uncertain travels, indeed. Thank you.
Lynette, that was wonderful and really brought back memories. And as Terry-Ann said earlier, it is a true Trinbagonian out traveling on the bus, where you can hear all the different stories and the reactions and the comments. And I agree, you know, relating it or looking at the different experiences and the entire country, what we have gone through from independence to now, and how the different reactions from people. You have those who would keep complaining, you know, all the time that the expectations weren't met, you know, so long we have had independence and these things shouldn't have been done, etc. You have the people who have found that a lot has been done from since then to now. So I think it depending on your experience, you know. I really loved how you, especially how you brought it over. You know, you're very visual. Like I just could see these men just rushing into the bushes and turning their back against the bus and doing what they have to do, and the woman being very angry, etc. So yes, it was a journey. It's an interesting journey, you know. Traveling on the bus, typical Trinbagonian experience. Yeah.
Yes. You know, it's interesting.
Yes, Terry-Ann, yes.
I listen to you because, you know, I'm thinking of our independence journey and the psyche of a Trinidadian. And I think so much of us has come out in that story. I love the phrase oscillating on three. You know, we go through life and we go through with all kinds of stress and strain. Yes. And everyone gets back home, they deal with whatever it is, and you settle and you put that fun on three.
And you just, yeah.
Oscillating.
You're on hail.
To me, it's so, and I think you also had a beautiful nod to our resilience and our innovativeness and creativity, and our recognizing, yes, we obey the rules when the rules are relevant, but if the rules are relevant, to hell with it. And the opening of the windows, yes, there's a sign here. Excuse me, this rule matter no more, change it. And how we go through, because there's some places you could get bloody mad that first of all there were maintenance problems. No, we just adapt. We adapt and we do what we have to do. And I thought that was captured in such a lovely way, you know, where everybody's just open and the rule maker knew better not to say anything about that rule. You know, but I think it really captures that we are independent people and we take stuff in stride. We flex and we twist depending on the situation, but yes, we will carry on after a while, you know. So I was very entertained by it. Very, very entertained. I love this selection.
And Terry-Ann, how we find humor in serious situations, you know. We use that humor to relax us and to say, okay, you know what?
Mechanism, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Because even when after having written it and I was a little, you know, disgusted with this just like you realize what's going on and you just cool. So and then when you're ready, because you push everybody out of the way and you make it all. And you know, at the time when it happened, you know, I had a bit of disgust and all of that and everything else. When I wrote it, and you know, while you're writing, you're reading as well, I just started to laugh because being so visual, I'm really very visual. And I'm just picturing, my gosh, you know, I mean, you know, the things that we do really. And I suppose the next day people would have passed there, and it wouldn't matter if that had been their their bathroom a few hours before, something like that, and they just go about the business as if, well, that's done. And I suppose it speaks to our ability to adapt.
Yes.
Adapt. You know, we have said a lot of things about the Trini mentality and you know, the carnival mentality and all of that. But what about our ability to adapt, you know, based on particular situations? I mean, we know of so many people who have gone through so many things, and you see them and a smile on the face, and sure that is the person who had all this. And you know, I think that is something that we should celebrate rather than just condemn and just say everybody, we have a carnival mentality and that's it and we're irresponsible. No, we are not as a people. There are some of us who are. And I think sometimes the best of us can act irresponsibly sometimes. But I think what is important for us is to realize what has happened. How is this impacting others? And this is the biggest thing about independence. It's not only about your freedom. You are free to do lots of things, right? But with freedom comes a responsibility.
Yes.
And I think that, to me, is the message that was always inherent in independence. I don't think all of us probably grasped it at the time. Some of us are probably grasping it now, you know, but that's how it's balanced. Rights and responsibilities.
Yeah.
If they're not balanced that way, then what do we have? We have chaos. So we have that ability to really be creative in diversity, in situations, and really to write. And just so I pass it on to you. Yes,
that's it. And guided by the watchwords, the discipline, the tolerance, and production. And this is what we learned from early, from time we celebrated independence. We were told as a nation, as people, that to get ahead, we all have to come together. We have to look at how we could contribute to the productivity of the country to make the country a better country. And I really believe that the average Trinbagonian, from then to even now, they use those as guidelines. They followed to be always have discipline. And I will say, yes, we are a disciplined people. Because even with all the things about the carnival and enjoying yourself, etc., there's a lot of discipline in that carnival. You know, we are tolerant. You know, in your bus stories, just that experience on the bus, waiting on the next bus to come. You know.
Yes.
We this happen, everybody, you come together, you may complain a bit, but you waited on the other bus, you know?
If you'd allow me,
I
want to share, want to share
something. No, go ahead. So I believe we are
those few words.
Yeah.
Discipline, tolerance, and production. And at a particular place, I spoke to the students at the beginning of our sessions, and I told them, you've just come from independence, and you know the words discipline, tolerance, and production. And what does discipline mean? And if discipline means that we operate in a particular way with some control and so on, how is that discipline going to impact your tolerance.
Yeah.
How is that tolerance that you're going to have for one another, for the elders, for the weak, for the everybody? How is that tolerance going to lead to production? So you need to have the discipline. You need to be able to control yourself and to control the way you interact with others and so on, who are less fortunate and all of that. And when we combine all three, really, what we get would be something useful, something that's worthwhile, and something of a higher nature. So I really see the discipline, the tolerance, and the production as necessary watchwords, not only for Trinbago and Begonians, but for life.
Yes.
For life. And I'm really glad for the framers who came up with them, you know.
You know, often I hear, and I probably always go off on the wrong leg, and I don't know if it's because I'm a San Fernandian. I don't know. I don't know what is the issue. But when I hear people talk about, I think we are one of the most disciplined societies on earth. And when I hear people talk about Trinidad as indisciplined, and you know, a lot of the narrative assumes indiscipline, and you better watch out because you will.
Yeah.
And I often sit back and look and I say, but what justifies that? You know, where is the evidence that you can assume that indiscipline will reign and you therefore have to warn about it? And when, as Jennifer said, for every area of our endeavors, every single one, and I don't know any, and I'm waiting for someone to tell me where we can say we are marked by indiscipline.
Yeah.
You know, I really believe that we take our watchwords to full height. And even as Jennifer said, in Carnival, that period, I say, if you really want to see Trinidad, September to March, that's our 6 months when we flourish. So it's Christmas to Carnival. And then from April to August, we're preparing for September to March.
Yeah.
But I mean, when we look at the negatives, and you may say crime, you may say whatever it is, it's really a small number that people probably through fear or, you know, it's our habit to highlight the negative and
Yes.
And I think it does harm to our psyche sometimes when we choose to really, really highlight and talk about, you know, we really in discipline regard. I think we are disciplined, and there are few instances of indiscipline. I think we are tolerant, and there are some instances of intolerance. And for us to be where we are in 58 years, as Jen and I spoke last week, we punch above our weight class in most areas, you know, even in economy. And if we look at, we have a fledgling energy industry, but there is no energy producing country in the world that a Trinidadian is not a critical part of the energy services cog. You know, so I as a Trini say, we are disciplined, we are productive, and we are tolerant. There are a few examples of indiscipline, lack of tolerance, and lack of productivity. But they are not the definition of us at all. And my hope for us is that our media and our language changes to not bring forward at least to give as much to those who represent the positive. And I mean those here, because sometimes we think the only time it's positive is if it's outside of here.
Yes.
But there's so much that is left here. And that's my real celebration of independence. And I think all those people on the bus represented discipline, tolerance, and production in large. Who knows, the guy who was listening probably had an urgent meeting
Yeah, well, I don't know. And it might have been because, of course, I prejudged him, you know that. I mean, obviously, you know, we do that, you know, because and there again, where we, the older ones, we tend to do that with the young ones, you know.
Yes.
So sometimes I have to say, mea culpa, maxima culpa. Yeah, but I think that we have so many examples, and there was yesterday, I think, there was this thing about this young female artist.
Yes.
Something Jones.
Yes.
Yes. And I mean, I think that was just super. And all right, that's a young one. What about when we think about Hasely Crawford?
Yes.
What about Hasely? Who was, I mean, the discipline he had to have brought him to that point of first gold medal, a lesson to me. I mean, you know, what about the Panis? Huh? What about them?
What about
the Dustin?
Lynette, what about Dwight York coming from a little school in Tobago to be the Premier League Player of the Year in that?
Yes. So we have so many. Yeah. I think independence for us should also be a time when we sit, we reflect, we'll go back over the years, all right, and just pull them out. Pull out, identify, you know, those who have really made us proud, and in some cases are still making us proud in their own field. In their own field.
Yes.
You know, we have the people who, you know, do all kinds of things, and how could they do that? How could they do that? You know, but they're just so very good. So let us approach this independence. To me, that's how I would approach it, with gratitude.
Yes.
Lots of gratitude for many reasons, and certainly celebration of all those who have paved the way, who have been the bright lights in whatever field of endeavor. Yes. And they have, in fact, kept us afloat.
Yes.
Because when they shine, anybody who shines says red, white, and black, oh, we're shining. We try to remember how it is we didn't know them in the first place. Yeah, yes. You know. So those are my thoughts about independence.
What comes to me again is the words, together we aspire, together we achieve. And it's really about us. We come together. We support each other. And when you speak, and Terry-Ann mentioned, you know, with Hasely Crawford from the beginning, and so many, I mean, we can list so many in the different fields. And when they achieved, we all as a country, I mean, we were so proud and supported, applaud them. And they, you know, they were exemplars. And I can say, yes, I am very proud of being a Trinbagonian. And as you said, they have the appreciation and gratitude for those who, from very early, and you mentioned from those days of independence from 1962 with Dr. Eric Williams and Dr. Kapil Deo, that they had set that, you know, they set that track for us, you know, and yeah, and we were able, I think, as a people to follow that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think many things that we do that we used to do, and probably it's a tradition that can start back. It's that independence was also a community celebration.
Yes.
You know? And again, it probably my perspective, because we weren't in Port of Spain, we weren't near to the savannah, we weren't in the midst of it. So there was a lot of community celebration, and independence was the time that you recognize the community heroes. So you really had an opportunity to to celebrate the one who did well in school, the old lady who went and did this, or whatever it is, you know, you really had that community spirit. And I suppose me involved in the arts and dance, and it was in this community center and that community center, and you really celebrated people of Trinidad. Yes, celebrate the high achievers, but I think, you know, one of the wishes I would have as we wish the country happy independence is that we all look at our communities and we identify some heroes. We identify some patriots. And, you know, just in the community, 2 streets, 3 streets, 4 streets, a little housing development, a little whatever it is, you know, celebrate somebody in each age group, you know, pick them up and really let everybody be proud that they are recognized for their contributions to community. You know, that's the way I feel. I like independence, so that kind of thing.
It is a good idea. And I if I may interject here, I'm thinking that we can also spend some time looking at the men. You know, we tend to, there's so much negativity about men in our society and all of that. We need to spend some time uplifting. And I just want to make a plug here, if I may. There is a Facebook page called Mentions.
Yes.
Where young male are brought to the fore, recognized and celebrated. And what I particularly liked about that page is how they talk about the impact that their parents, those who meant for them, you know, and their circumstances were not always great. Not always great, but they show that kind of appreciation. So I think as we look at our community, we can also look at the men in our community who we have not always seen in a particularly good light. But maybe we need to change the lenses a bit, you know, and look at them through eyes of hope and promise.
And Lynette, I think that is another blatant example of where a minority has painted the majority.
Yes, again. Yes.
A blatant example, because we have attitudes and assumptions about men and what men would do and how they would behave. And it's based on a stereotype that is not stereotypical. It's not.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
So that is really, really a good recommendation for us at Independence.
Yes.
I agree, because my experience, my journey from then to now, Lynette, have always been, I had very strong male models, I would say.
Yes.
Who, in my family, in the community I lived, we always looked up to the male were the ones who were in charge of made a lot of the decisions to how they're working and supporting their family. In those days, they had one of the women were homemakers.
Yes.
And the men were the ones out there being the breadwinner in the family. And we had utmost respect for them. And it wasn't about their what they did to earn a living. The fact that we saw them very responsible, taking charge of their families. So for me, when I'm in conversation with others who maybe don't speak the same way about men, and I can say I don't have that experience during my journey. So I am agreeing, if it is, you know, things has changed a lot, that we should really, as the youth say, big up our men, big up our males, you know?
Yes.
And appreciate them, you know, for what they're doing. And that small group that may be going the other way, what we should do is give that support to see how, in terms of our positive, helping them.
Yes.
To give that respect to them instead of bringing them down. Mm-hmm. And I have read a lot of these stories in the mention, like what you were talking about.
Yes.
Last one, and they all would refer to the elders in the home, or the last person who gave their story, he referred to even his teachers who supported him, So I agree as an independent nation and in celebrating independence that we should appreciate those in our communities, for whatever they have been doing. And they may not be recognized nationally by getting some award, but we couldn't recognize them in the community and go back to what Terry-Ann said, celebrate independence within the community and bring people together then.
Mm-hmm. And not
maybe after COVID.
Well, yes. Well, we're not allowing COVID to
true. But,
to hamper us, but recognizing with the restrictions.
They're on social media, so we can do it there. And I think we have to stop letting mainstream media convince us that there's something wrong with us, that we are indisciplined, not tolerant, and not productive, because most of us are.
Yes.
I think this has been a lovely chat. Jen, we have 3 minutes left.
Well, what I would say from what you just said, Terry-Ann and Lynette, that we should not wait, but we have the Facebook and mentions they're doing very good work there. And instead of people posting a lot of the negatives, that we start posting the positives, telling the positive stories and encouraging each other and have, show gratitude.
Yes.
And so,
are incentivized to make others negative. The positive people just don't take them on, and they don't.
Yes.
So then the image becomes the default of the minority.
Yes.
Wonderful. But anyway, this has been our celebration of independence. 58 years as a nation able and willing to handle its own. And as I said, my image of the independence celebration is that wonderful, powerful might of our protective services parading their absolute readiness to deal with any threat, external or internal, to our independence. And then the fun of our people. So to everyone.
We want to thank you so much.
May God bless
all the best
our
with the bus stories. I enjoyed the story.
Thanks for having me. It has been great, really. So you all have a good one.
Thank you.
Happy Independence.
Okay, and happy independence to you and to all those who are on with us.
Yes.
And to Trinidad and Tobago, of course. Bye for now.
Thank you so much. Bye. Have a great one.